This series is about outstanding architecture from around America. From stunning residential to public spaces to commercial. This is an architectural deep dive to uncover the incredible stories behind each design. Welcome to America by Design. Our ByDesign industry experts have selected innovative, inspiring and award-winning projects.
To me, good design is really a balance of beauty and function, and it really reflects the environment in which it's built in. There's principles related to that in terms of aesthetics and unity and sustainability. It's a tough job of the architect to balance all those things into one project.
Architecture is about feelings. The way you feel is a mirror of the success of the space that you are in. And the better you feel, the more successful the project.
Let's get started with our first project.
The Anagram Columbus Circle project is interesting partly because it's a reminder that even though New York is a grid, it's also not. The variation in New York, in both its streetscape and its buildings itself, is part of what makes it exciting and interesting architecturally. And I think anything that's about building more housing in New York is great, both fancy stuff and affordable housing, really importantly. New York architects are innovating in that space, and I think that's really exciting.
As a self-professed architecture nerd, one of the many things I like about Manhattan is this, Broadway. It wonderfully cuts across everything, creating fabulous architectural chaos. Adam, now are you a fan of Broadway?
I am. Broadway, the theater district, but also the street. It is the rebel street of all streets in Manhattan because it cuts across the city grid. And it was here before the grid existed.
Yeah, it's like an old track.
Exactly. And it creates some really interesting buildings that are pie-shaped along Broadway. The most famous of which is...
the Flatiron.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I guess this building that you designed, the Anagram here, is kind of channeling the Flatiron.
It is. We thought of it from the very beginning as a flatiron for Columbus Circle.
So how has this intersection impacted your design?
Well, the Flatiron has this beautiful curve that faces the park. We did the same thing here, and that creates some incredibly interesting spaces on the interior, which I am convinced you're going to love.
Adam, there's been a lot of talk about curves, and I'm seeing more here.
Yeah, the bend off Broadway on the facade informs everything from the facade all the way to the interiors and the objects, even these fluted concrete panels you see here, and even the stair.
Now, this is a bit of fun.
Yeah, I mean, we've always thought of this project as a little bit of downtown brought uptown. So this is inspired by Firescape.
Okay, and it also doubles as a mailroom.
Yeah, this is probably the first and last mailroom stair hall we'll ever design, but you know.
Now let's back up a bit. What is this building?
It's a luxury rental building, and we're in the clubhouse and conservatory.
It feels like a hotel.
Our apartment buildings are becoming much more like hotels.
And you guys do a lot of hospitality, Inc. does.
Yeah, I mean, you can really feel our hotel experience being brought to bear. You see it in this wood paneling, you know, this kind of lower register that creates a kind of intimate atmosphere. And then that is held by this upper register of plaster, which we then interpreted as a plaster wall covering throughout the building with Corroseal.
And there's lots of other lovely little moments.
We've got Central Park outside, and we brought this garden, a little bit of Central Park inside here. And it even continues downstairs to a rec room for the kids. And then upstairs is a penthouse.
Now, this is the penthouse?
It's not. This is actually just a 3-bedroom family apartment mid-building.
Oh, Adam, I like a good reveal. Look at this. This is the pointy end of the building.
Yeah, and this is what Broadway gives you, all these special moments. I mean, can you imagine having your dining room in a bay window on Columbus Circle?
But the apartment itself is gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, we designed everything from the facade all the way down to the smallest detail, like the plumbing fittings, which were custom designed for the project with signature plumbing.
But come on, this is the rock star.
It is. I mean, this room is half glass.
Now that's Columbus Circle, as you said. And is that by chance Central Park there?
Indeed it is.
So Adam, this is the penthouse. Who lives here?
Actually, it's open to the entire building.
I love it when a building does that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super generous thing and it makes it feel like a hotel.
And from here too, you can really appreciate the Flatiron-esque shape.
Yeah, and interestingly, the Flatiron's being converted to residential.
Yes, Adam, but from what I've seen, that's a long way off.
You're probably right.
And until then, we've got this. There's a lot of special moments in this building, but I think this is my favorite. A gift from Adam and his design team from Inc. and from our old friend down below, Broadway.
After the pandemic, when people started going back to the office, they wanted a different experience. We spent a lot of time working from home, and the Intuit project in Silicon Valley is bringing home back into work.
I really like what they're doing with the interior space. They're providing areas for people to gather, they're providing quiet areas for people to focus.
So it's really the best of both worlds. It's part corporate office, but then it also has this amazing residential scale.
We're at Intuit headquarters, a company known for innovation, not just for finance, but the way people collaborate. This campus is literally redefining the way people work. Hey, Steve.
Robin,
Great
hi.
to see you.
Great to see you.
Thanks so much for having me out to Mountain View.
Great to have you here. We have two buildings that are new additions to our campus.
Okay.
One delivered in 2016, and I want to show you our newest building, which we just delivered in 2024.
All right, well, let's go find out.
Let's do it.
Okay. Wow, this is truly spectacular. I've seen so many pictures of this project from all the awards that you guys won.
Well, thank you very much. We love this building.
So tell me, how did that inform the design brief?
The pandemic gave us an opportunity to completely rethink everything.
Now, I really want to know what's going on back there.
There's a great story behind that.
Okay. So Clive, you are the interior architect.
That's right,
referring
Robin.
to them.
Yes, we've been working on it for quite a long time. The challenge of this building became, how do we design something absolutely fabulous that people will want to come to every day? We had certain site constraints here, and we had to get delivery vehicles and all of that sort of thing.
Okay.
And that meant that the office building had to be lifted up. And then we had to make it look like we always wanted it that way.
Of course.
And as you can see by the shape of the roof over here, this is the roof of the little house.
Right.
The stair really kind of generated that. And then you get to the top, and it's kind of flooded with light.
I love the way we've done with these stairs, and now we're coming upon this whole other stair. It's a very different vocabulary here.
I think, well, there's a lot of visual kind of interest going on into its brand color, so blue, and then giving it some energy with using perforated metal.
Very dramatic in this large space, and it really supports these cantilevered boxes.
Robin, boxes is little I would rather say pods, Robin.
Pods,
Meeting
okay,
pods, yes.
Remember that.
Putting collaboration on display, but probably most importantly, we lined the pods with this lovely Chinook wood by DecoSpan from Design One Source. You know, makes it feel warmer and a little more residential.
And Caroline, you are the project director and a workplace strategist at Clive Wilkinson, correct?
That's right.
So everybody knows that things changed after COVID, but I want to know from you, why the office today?
We wanted to create an office space that people want to be in.
Oh, well, that seems obvious.
Right. So as the pandemic was happening and Intuit came to us with this challenge, how do we redesign the workplace to really fill the gaps that weren't there pre-pandemic?
The lighting is very warm, it's very inviting. The acoustics are really lovely in here, so you certainly achieve those elements here.
Exactly. This space was really inspired by hospitality references to really bring the comforts of home into the office. Shh, it's a quiet space.
Gotcha, okay. Oh, this is very unique.
This is Intuit's quiet library. There's 3 in the building, and the colors and the furnishings are each inspired by iconic libraries of the past. So it has quiet library protocol in that you're really focused on decompression, and it's intended to be a space for respite for people, really addressing all of the neurodiverse needs and making sure that there's a place for everyone in the building, from extroverts to introverts.
All right, now I'm just going to say it. We've seen a lot of really beautiful, lushly designed spaces. Where does the actual work get done around here?
Intuit's hybrid model is neighborhood-based, so people are assigned to a neighborhood, and the neighborhood has all of the parts and pieces that people would need to be successful at work. So it has the workstations, phone booths, it has meeting rooms of all different sizes, and then it also has these open collaboration spaces for teams that are assigned to the neighborhood.
How do you come together in a big space like this?
Great question. Let me sketch it for you, actually.
Right here?
Each neighborhood has an open collab setting, and when people are in an unassigned model, that means that they can go from neighborhood to neighborhood and pick any seat to work in. And so it really helps to foster that collaboration and that movement between teams.
Excuse me, I have to make a call. All right, you're killing me here, Steve. I want to know what's going on with this space.
Well, this is the space we call the Little House.
Okay.
And it's nestled under the stair. It takes us back to our roots. Our founder literally started the first Intuit product at his kitchen table. We can close the doors behind us and it can be used as a conference room, really. But it can also be opened up into this space, large parties, events, does it all.
From the neighborhoods to the little house to the meeting pods, don't call them boxes. This is the office of the future, built for the people that bring it to life every day.
The Naples Players here in Florida is a masterclass on how to maximize a site. And it's caught the eye of many a theatre designer around the world. And Dave, you're the architect behind all this.
Well, I'm the architect for the additions and the renovations that were just completed on the Naples Players Theatre. What you see here was actually built in 1998. And at that time, there was a redevelopment program for Fifth Avenue that included shutting down a street that used to be here to turn it into a public plaza and build the theater. It's an icon of Fifth Avenue and Naples, so we didn't want to touch it. We knew that it was important to the people in Naples, so what we did is inside.
Now, Dave, what were the big moves here?
So our big ask for the theater was to add seats. And we saw that the best way to do that was going to be to add a balcony. We were able to add the balcony without taking out the roof, without changing any of the walls. The only thing we had to do was to change the rake of the ground floor seats so that we can access the balcony from the second floor. So after doing that, we added these great new seats from Ducharme.
And the sidelines are impeccable.
Exactly. That's another thing we wanted to do, was to have no obscured views, and we did that by cantilevering the balcony so there's no columns.
Not a bad seat in the house.
Exactly.
Now, Keely, I understand that the old theatre had a problem with slapback.
Yes.
Now, that sounds painful. What's slapback?
Slapback is basically where sound hits the rear wall, and if it's untreated, comes back to the stage, and the performers hear it. It's very disorienting, so not a great thing to have.
Okay, and you managed all the acoustics in the theatre.
Yes. So if you can see these curves and undulations in the wall, all of these angles have been scientifically analyzed by our team and Marilyn Roa to take sound from the stage and spread it out evenly over the entire audience area.
Do you think acoustics is a science or an art?
That's a good question. So there's certainly a lot of science behind what we do, lots of numbers, lots of analysis. But at the end of the day, when you're looking at taking science and transforming it into architecture, I personally think that it becomes an art form. It's an expression.
Shall we do a clap test?
Sure.
Wow, that's dead.
Yes. So this space was designed to have about a 0.7 to 0.8 second reverb time. It's designed that way to purposefully be dead enough to absorb the sound energy from heavily amplified performances, so it doesn't come back as excessively loud or excessively reverberant. So you want it tuned just right to the space and the program.
I can tell you've thought about this a lot.
Yes.
We wanted our community to have every space accessible to them. So here we are in this incredible costume shop, which is located actually above the scene shop.
Yeah, I mean, normally this would be off-site somewhere else altogether.
Yeah, or in a dingy basement somewhere, right? And so here we have all this incredible natural light to see the fabrics where our volunteers and staff come together to do community work. Yeah, but I wanted to show you another space. How do you feel about heights?
Heights, okay, I think.
You know, Mike, you can actually just stand in the middle of any of one of these panels.
Really, what, here?
Yeah, absolutely, go for it.
Okay.
It's rated for the exact same amount of weight as any of the concrete floors.
Wow, it's kind of spongy.
It's a little spongy, but it's way safer because you can't fall through it, you can't drop anything heavy. And it's one of the ways that we had our architects and our theater consultants work together to come up with a solution that would allow anyone, students, people in wheelchairs, to access even the technical elements of the theater.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
We're hoping it's the beginning of a movement around the world to get technical theater spaces accessible to anyone.
So now in the main theatre, and this is more a traditional catwalk.
Well, not quite, Mike. Actually, these catwalks have been made way more accessible. This width, the fact that you and I can stand here together, that's unheard of. So you don't have to climb a ladder or crawl through a hole, which would be more traditional. But what's really cool about these catwalks is the way they were built. We actually had to erect a 60-foot scaffolding through the entire room so that we could access the entire ceiling, put in the structural elements that were required to hang the catwalks from above.
Oh boy, what a job.
It was pretty incredible.
Now, you mentioned accessibility a few times. That's a theme, isn't it, with a modern theatre?
Well, we certainly hope so. So this theater is actually the only one in the country that has a sensory-friendly viewing room. It's a space where any family impacted by autism, Down syndrome, sensory processing disorders can come and have independent control of lighting, sound, temperature. It's private. You don't have to cross through the main auditorium, so that anyone has the opportunity to watch any of the performances in the theater.
Again, a first for me in a theatre. So Bryce, you seem like a nice guy.
Thank you.
But that brief you were telling me about earlier, that's, you know, there's a lot of want, need there.
There is, and I put these two gentlemen to the task. You know, we needed a building that would be bigger, serve more people, add a theater, have better acoustics, serve the artists, and bring the community in, all while on the same footprint.
David, are all your clients like this guy?
Well, we tend to take on projects that are difficult. We're known for that. But we had our own goals for this project. You know, we wanted to be more open to the community, and we wanted this north side of the building, which was before the back of the house, we really wanted it to feel like the front.
And the fun part of the whole project was to get everything that Bryce needed and wanted for the future of the theater all on one very tight site with buildings all around, and get it done before curtains go up.
Yeah, how long did we have? 13 months?
Yeah.
Wow, because you had a theater schedule to think about.
That's right. The show must go on.
Here in the lobby, I understand there was some structural gymnastics that went on here.
Oh, most definitely. Because we wanted to really open this lobby up to the community, so that meant taking out a solid concrete wall here with no windows or very few windows, and completely opening it up with curtain wall so that we can activate the pedestrian alley out here at nighttime.
Yeah.
It really makes a big difference.
Make a big connection to the community.
Exactly, because we are a community theater.
Yeah.
And then over on this side, this used to be a solid wall with restrooms behind it, and so we had to open it wide up because now it's serving a different function, supporting a balcony inside.
This was a challenge. This entire wall, if you can imagine, these columns were not here. This was a solid concrete block wall. So the only thing you could see was a large red wall with no windows, no openings, and the skylight.
So this must have been load bearing.
All entirely load bearing.
Yeah, and you must have taken the roof off.
No, David wouldn't let me take the roof off.
That's right.
The roof was not in the budget.
So it's kind of like a laparoscopic procedure.
Absolutely.
Precisely. Yeah, it took a lot of work and a lot of coordination.
Okay, a third theatre.
Yes, a third theater on top of a theater below, and I've got a surprise for you.
Oh, yes.
So this being a community theater, we thought it only appropriate to have a theater that's open to the community. When there's rehearsals going on in the evening, the people in the community can see it going on.
But have you thought about the fact that this is hurricane country here?
Obviously, yeah, we deal with hurricane design every day, but we're not ones to sort of buckle to the requirements of hurricanes. Our buildings are hurricane compliant, but we still like to do open and airy projects.
Yeah, you don't want to build concrete bunkers.
Exactly, and this is insulated and laminated glass, and it withstands 180 mile an hour winds. And these windows also have to withstand the force of a 4x4 being shot at it at 50 miles an hour.
Well, I'd like to see that experiment. So you mentioned that the theatres are racked and stacked on top of each other. So how does that work acoustically?
They are, yeah. The theaters are on top of each other because we didn't really have a choice. It's not optimum acoustically, but with the help of Seabine and Associates, our acoustical engineers, we're able to come up with a system that isolates the sound between the theaters. You actually have a box within a box where the structures are separated, and then we also use the mass of thick concrete slabs in order to deaden the low frequency sounds between the two theaters.
Okay, so you can have really noisy shows going on, one on top of the other.
We can, and it happens all the time.
The most sustainable building is the one you keep. And in fact, through this renovation, this building achieved LEED certification. But for me, this is the magic, a 450-seat theatre that still feels intimate and is the very heartbeat of Fifth Avenue, Naples.
The west side of Chicago is undergoing a transformation, and the last time I was here in this neighborhood, the site was a historic industrial rail yard. And so I'm really interested to see how the new Boys and Girls Club of Chicago has been part of that community-led, city-supported neighborhood revitalization. Catherine, you and your firm Layton's have spent a lot of time here in Austin, haven't you?
We have. We've been working in the neighborhood with a lot of community organizations to build back resources and restore buildings, whether that's the Boys and Girls Club here or new affordable housing. We've been working to improve the quality of life across the whole entire neighborhood.
The life expectancy in Chicago is not the same across the city, is it?
No, it is not. If you go further east in a more affluent neighborhood, you might be living up to 88 years. Here in Austin, your life expectancy could be high 60s, low 70s, and that comes from years and years and generations of disinvestment.
A building like this is so critical to think about how young people, teens, get a good start in a neighborhood.
Absolutely. You need safe spaces to go to after school, on the weekend, with your family, and we see a building like Boys and Girls Club as one of those key places and key memory makers as part of a youth experience, not only from the space, but from the programs that they offer.
Now that we're in the building, I can really see how many different functions you had to back into the site.
We did, but obviously the site is very constrained. So we had to make every room have multiple functions. Right now we're standing in the commercial kitchen that's adjacent to our community rooms, but we also have an NBA-sized court, art rooms, gaming centers. We have multiple classrooms.
One clever design choice you made is that the upper floors get larger.
Yes, we stepped the building out 2 feet per floor to allow for the additional square footage.
It's 3 o'clock. I can hear the students are starting to arrive.
Absolutely. We will be transforming this room. It will be one combined space that we have the La Cantina doors that slide open and create that shared space.
Actually, I've lived in Chicago for 25 years, and this is my first day ever inside a Boys and Girls Club.
This is actually the first Boys and Girls Club that's been built in over 30 years. So the Boys and Girls Club in Chicago started out in 1902, and right now we're just sticking close to our mission, life-changing experiences for young people around the city. I think it gives the students a sense of being able to advocate for their own community and their own spaces.
What's your favorite room to use?
My favorite room, the gym.
If you could ask the architect who designed this building any question, what would you want to ask the architect?
I like ask the architect, like what materials it took you to like make this building.
Okay. A Boys and Girls Club is an interesting building type because it's really complex, right? There's after-school functions, there's social, sport, learning.
You're right, it is a complicated both program and spatial problem that we had to solve. We're adults designing a space for kids, so for youth, what do we know about that? So we created a youth council that paralleled the project all the way from design and even into construction that told us how they would use the space, what's cool and what's not cool, and not surprisingly, anything I think is cool is not cool. And that became part of our cohort of how this space came to be and how it was designed.
When you're designing a building for youth, it's got to be durable, right?
That's definitely something we thought about, the client thought about it, and concrete lends itself as a durable material that we chose to use exposed as much as we could. The ceilings, the columns, the structure, polish the floors. On the outside, we wrap that all with rain screen cladding from Centria, fast, robust material, easy to install. And then when you go inside, to bring all that to life, that's where we use a lot of expansive and natural glass that enhance the concrete structure.
Cody, I think sometimes we forget what an impact the pandemic had on daily life, but also certainly in our industry around design, construction, materials.
Yeah, it was. It was very scary because when we were brought on, the initial design had it 100% a structural steel frame building. We determined that that structural steel wasn't going to make the aggressive schedule that we promised this community a reality. And if that wasn't going to happen, we needed to make a drastic change. And we pivoted quickly from a structural steel frame to a cast-in-place concrete building. Bear Construction, when we come into a community, we want to be good community partners. We worked with Alderman Mitz, we hired locally, and at the end of the day, this is a club that was built by community members.
What really occurs to me is how this building has been transforming. What I can see is that transformation is probably part of the larger goals that you had for the building and maybe for the neighborhood too.
Absolutely. I mean, our client thinks about how this building can transform the life of the youth for the duration they're part of the club. But we also started to think about then how this building can be part of the broader transformation that residents are having in their own neighborhood.
We're very fortunate as a firm to be able to work on these types of projects and impact communities, and we look forward to continuing.
We hope you've enjoyed our look at some of the finest architectural designs from around America. Join us next time for more groundbreaking architecture on America by Design. For more information on any of the projects featured in this series, go to bydesign.global.